Well, welcome back. Well, we've heard from Miss Isaac. We've heard from Miss Donna Young, Mr. John Zingala. We've heard from Victor Biggs. We've heard from Professor Kent, and we've heard from Ron Crudo. And now we have our next guest speaker who will talk to us about building relationships virtually. His name is Khaazra Maaranu. Khaazra Maaranu is a co-owner of Electronics Consumer, a full-service payment provider located in California. The payment processing company processes everything from brick and mortar to online businesses of every kind. He started his company many years ago with his business partner, built from the ground zero with no loans, no venture capitals, and no gurus to help them through the financial jungle. Well, the best thing of all about Mr. Maaranu is he's a family man, a good friend, loves to learn, and enjoys creating unforgettable memories. I present to you all right now Mr. Khaazra Maaranu.
Okay, hello there, everyone. Um, my name is Khaazra Maaranu, and I'm going to do something a little bit different here. I'm going to, because I can't see who's here, and so that kind of, it doesn't drastically change how I communicate with you, but it alters it a little bit. So I'm going to ask a couple questions that I'll probably see in the chat. That'll help me relate to you and maybe kind of tailor what I'm going to say, or some of what I'm going to say rather. So first of all, we're talking about building relationships virtually, right? And then I'm going to talk a little bit about me, and then I want to find out a little bit about you before I go, right? We could do that with the easy poll. And so I'm born and raised in Detroit, Michigan. I now live in the beautiful Orlando, Florida. I'll tell you a little bit about the company that we started. It's called Electronic Commerce. It's a payment processing company. We've been around for maybe 14, 15 years, literally built the business from the ground up. Well, first of all, payment processing, people have heard of Stripe, they've heard of PayPal. You can go to your bank and get payment processing or credit card processing, or some people call it merchant processing. There's many different areas you can go, but there's not many FSPs, which is what we're considered. We're considered a full service provider. And just to give you just a quick snippet of what that means, most people are familiar with Stripe or PayPal. They are considered high risk payment aggregators, right? High risk payment aggregators. That means that they'll pretty much take on anybody initially, but it doesn't mean that they can accept your business. The beauty of a high risk payment aggregator is for people who may not have, they may not really have a business per se, right? They're just starting, right? They just need to get a website up really quick. So they go to PayPal, they go to Stripe, they get approved in a matter of minutes, but it doesn't mean that the business is set up properly. It's just an auto approval kind of system. Well, we're a little bit different, right? So we can do what they do, but we prefer to keep you in business for the long haul. So we handle the risk, we handle the underwriting, the tech support, everything. We also make sure that your site is compliant before we approve you, because it makes no sense to approve you and then have to shut you down a few days later. So we built the business from the ground up, no loans. Wish we had some coaches to help us out. And we built the business up to the point of doing over $1 billion in sale every single year, right? Well over $1 billion, billions and billions and billions of dollars since we've been in business, but well over $1 billion every single year. And that required a lot of freaking work, right? So I can kind of give you some of the things that we've done to help build relationships, because here's the thing, right? We started out door to door, right? We started the business out door to door. And the interesting thing is that, you can do door to door, right? Door to door or face to face is still absolutely important to build relationships. But when right before the pandemic hit, and I'm so thankful that we did this before the pandemic hit, the whole online world just like boom, went from 0 to 100 really quick, like steroids, right? And so it's a little bit different and when it comes to building relationships virtually versus building relationships in person. So I can share some of the things that we've done. to build relationships. If you still like, maybe you have a restaurant, maybe you have a coffee shop, maybe you have a bookstore, or maybe you have an online business. So I'm going to share with you some of the things that has worked for us. But the beauty of what we do as a payment processor is that we're also allowed to view and work with every kind of business known to man. You could be a church, you could be a grocery store, you could be a restaurant, you could be an adult entertainment store. I just saw the scripture come up. I didn't want to say that, but you could pretty much be anything and we'll work with you. So we get to see what works and what doesn't work. I also want to tell you what we've done wrong as a company, right? That cost us millions of dollars. I mean, literally millions of dollars. So I want to share that with you as well, because it makes no sense to just paint this beautiful picture without being 100% authentic with you at the same time. So I come from the School of Hard Knocks, right? Being born and raised in Detroit, Michigan. I wasn't the most educated young man, but I finally figured it out. Went to high school for 5 years, if you know what I mean. And then I finally went to college. It took me 7 years to graduate from college, like 7 to 8 years, because I really didn't know what I wanted to do. And then finally finished that, and started working in the corporate world. I did some stuff for Goldman Sachs. I did some stuff for the Federal Reserve Bank. And so I kind of moved around a little bit, made some decent money. And right before 911 hit is when I moved, like literally a few months before 911 hit. And it's crazy because I would have been in the subway at the same exact time because I worked on Wall Street. That's what Goldman Sachs is. It's on Wall Street. And so I moved to Florida, right? And I could not find a freaking job. Even though I had a finance degree, I had an electrical engineering degree, I could not find a job, right? So I started volunteering for elementary school, and I started to I started to volunteer first, and then they brought me on as an employee of the company. And I think after about 3 or 4 years, and that was the hardest job I've ever had in my life, ever, right? I worked so damn hard in the school. I was doing everything. I was fixing, I was watching children. I was doing lunchroom duty, right? I was fixing computers, installing software, shooting videos, building websites. They had me doing everything I didn't even know how to do. So I was like this super duper flexible guy. Plus, like I said, I was watching children doing lunch. I was hoping the dean would discipline. I was doing crossing guard duty. I mean, this principal had me doing everything. And I got to a point like, now, mind you, I come from Wall Street making close to 6 figures, and I go to Florida making zilch, like zilch. And then I finally come on board, and I think after 3 or 4 years, I get to a point where I make maybe at the most $32,000 or $36,000, right? At the most, $32,000 or $36,000, and I'm like, I get the same 2-week vacation, that whole job thing, and I didn't really want more money, I just wanted more time. And so I was always good with people, right? I knew everyone at the school. I could communicate well with vendors. I just liked people, right? Which I think is a great quality in building relationships. And I knew I wanted to do something that allowed my income to grow even when I wasn't working, right? I'm a hard worker, but I wanted to make money even when I wasn't working. And so I went online and found this article about payment processing. And I just jumped on it, to be honest with you. I just took a risk, and I said, you know what? I flew out to California, and there's some details into that, and I won't lay that on you here, but I barely made it to California for this training. It's 100% commission opportunity. I went from $32,000 or $36,000 before taxes. I have a family of 4. I was the only one making money, and I had to leave that for something better. And so I flew out to California and got this 2-week training. I didn't understand anything that they were talking about. It was some kind of weird crypto math that they were teaching people there that only work at their company. And I won't go into detail there. And then I came back to Orlando and I could not sell a thing. I literally thought that I was going to I thought we were going to be homeless. I was going to have my family move back in with, my children's mother, with her mom. I was almost at the point of I was going to, no exaggeration, report myself missing so that I would save myself the embarrassment of coming back home saying, we all have to be evicted, right? My son was in basketball, Little League basketball. My daughter was in dance. And that's pretty like, crushing, especially for children. So I couldn't, so I wasn't having any luck at this gig. And, I had the sales manual. I would walk into businesses, I had hair at the time, right? I had this big old overgrown suit on. And, I had like a briefcase, and I would pull out my folder, my binder, and I would start to present, give a presentation, right? And I probably sound like a robot at the time. And so it wasn't working. And then, I heard it's always good to continually invest in your personal development. I cannot say that enough. And I remember one guy saying, who was successful at sales, he says, whatever you do, don't quit. He says, whatever you do, do not quit. And then I remember another guy listening to a guy named Jim Rohn, right? Jim Rohn is passed on now, but this man has just given us so many jewels and gems. And some of the things he said were just like, I would hear it and play it again and again and again. It started to have an effect on me. And then I also thought about my upbringing in Detroit. Detroit is a pretty rough place, right? And I remember not being the most popular guy, but I was always a guy who was very observant. And I understood people, right? I really understood people. And so I finally just dropped the manual, dropped the corporate pitch. And instead of being this salesperson, I just became myself. And I started to connect with people. Like literally, I started to connect with people, right? And then so I'm just going to fast forward. I think I had the most sales that year without any previous sales experience. I had the most sales of anybody in the company. Then the next year, I quadrupled what I was making, right? I was the top salesperson then. And then I had to leave that entity, right? It was 100% commission, but by that time I had more confidence. I'm like, I already tripled my income within 8 months what I was making at the school. Then the next year I quadrupled it. I was more in control of my time. I could see my family when I wanted to see them. I could go play basketball. I could do what I wanted to do, of course, providing that I got the work done. Because when you become an entrepreneur, business owner, you definitely don't do it to chill, right? You have more responsibilities. But they had the back office, so all I had to do was focus on sales. And so I did that, and I went to another company because I didn't like the ethics of the first company. And in the second company, I built it up. Some of those same relationships, right, that I had, now they follow me because I had a relationship, and I'll tell you how I kept those relationships, right? But I had one, right? And just like any relationship, right? It's not any different in business. You got to communicate with people and stay in touch and things like that. Be accessible. When there's an issue, try to fix it. If you can't, find someone who can. And so this other company, within 6 months, I surpassed the income I was making prior to that. And then I had some issues with their ethics as well. So I stopped doing that, started to do my own thing with the business partner of mine. We got this thing started called electronic commerce. And boom, just door to door again, massive, massive sales. And then bringing on other sales reps, training them how to go out and generate business. And so I did that, and we got to the point maybe 3 or 4 years ago where we just started to really focus on online business. And so it's different in building a relationship in person, face to face, versus online. Totally different scenario. But the beauty of it, the online or the virtual way, is that instead of one-to-one, when I'm going door to door, now it's one to many when you're online. Like right now, I'm talking to maybe 2, 3, 4, 500 people, right? There's no way I could do that individually. It'd take me, if I talk to one person a day, it'd still be a year and a half or so, right? And providing everybody is waiting for me to come and visit them. And then I don't know, who knows how much that will cost. And then I have a life, right? I can only have so much time, and you are the same way. So the online world is where it is at. Even if you have a brick and mortar business, you must have an online presence. And so again, I'm going to tell you what we did that didn't work, right? And we're going to say what's working and what's not working. And so the sales scripts, that dry, memorized, kind of rote approach to business and to gaining clients and to building relationships, I would just dead that, right? But what does work is connecting, right? Connecting actually works. Now, some people are genuine with their connections and some people are not. You have to use better judgment. But since you are the one that's going to be initiating the connections, then it's going to be easy for you to do because you are in control of how the relationship pans out. So I want to make sure that I'm talking to everyone here instead of talking or communicating with everyone here instead of talking at them. If we can, somebody says, what are some good tools to build virtual relationships? I'm going to talk about that. If we can, first of all, if we can in the chat, tell me, why do you think relationships are important? Why do you think relationships are important in the first place? And I want to see the answers because it's super important to even have an understanding of why it's important, because this is going to dictate how you develop relationships. Why are relationships important? Some people think relationships are important because they see them as a means to their end, meaning they look at relationships like tools. You know, you go to conferences in person and you're passing out cards and you're getting cards because you're hoping someone does business with you. So, Jay Douglas says relationships are long lasting. They are. So that's why they're important to you. Okay. And so in your mind, if you think that relationships, Jay says relationships are long lasting. So his intent on creating relationship is going to come through in his communication, whether it be an ad, whether it be in person, whether it be just through an organic post on social media. But some people may say, you know what, relationships are, I need to make money off of you, right? It's like, what can you do for me? And that is also going to come off in your communication with your clients. I promise you, it will come off in your communication. People could feel it, right? It'll feel kind of sleazy. It'll feel kind of salesy. And you will eventually probably ward off more people than you attract to you, right? So it's super important to understand why relationships are important. I'm not saying that your answer is wrong. I just drink some water here. Haven't been sleeping much, right? Starting to catch up to me. And so your answer is your answer, but you need to understand that in the beginning, that when you're authentic and when you think about the infinite game and the long-term game instead of the short term, and what I mean by that is a lot of people think in business that they have to win. And that's a very short-term way of thinking. And so that's how they approach the relationships, when you should be thinking about the infinite game, right? A guy named Simon Sinek wrote a book called The Infinite Game. Excellent book, right? How do I formulate a positive ad? Okay, we're going to talk about some of that too. We're going to have like a little question and answer period here as well. So make sure you know what your intent is on building relationships. The next thing I want to talk about is authenticity, right? So how do you connect with people, right? How do you connect with people? What I mean by that is, let's say it's an entertainer or something like that, right? Or just people, your friends. How did you connect with them, right? That's super important to think about. How did you connect with them? Because how you connected with them is how you should connect with other people. Think about it, right? You know, name somebody who you like in entertainment. Or maybe not entertainment, in your neighborhood, at your store, at your job, right? How do you connect? What is it that they did that allowed you to connect with them? Did they just come up to you and say, hey, listen, I'm glad you work here today. You know, here's what you need to do, get it done. I see you when it's done, right? Or did they come up to you and say, hey, maybe, my name is John or Joe, whatever, right? Kanisha, this is what I do. And, you want to go to lunch today, right? They kind of got to know you first, right? They didn't just come, boom, right at you, right at the door. It's almost like when you go to, when you're out and about and, you see a female or a man that you like, right? You don't just, no man hopefully walks up to a woman and says, hey, listen, can we go out tonight? And by the way, would you like to come back to my house, right? Like, that's just going to kill the deal. So you want to connect and some people are just straight out like that, right? It just depends on who you're dealing with. And if that's how you sell, that's how you sell. If that's how you connect, that's how you connect. But you want to be able to deal with people how you would want to be dealt with, right? So think about that when you're building it, because this is going to come out in your ads that are paid and in your organic traffic as well. So you also, what I see some people think that they have to connect or build relationships through advertising, promoting material things, right? You see a lot of videos and pictures today with all kind of cars behind them and houses and all kinds of things like that. And, people are draped in all kinds of expensive jewelry. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that because unfortunately, especially if you're targeting a certain market, a certain demographic, that's what they connect with. That's what they love, right? But that doesn't mean that's the best audience to connect with, right? That audience comes with a lot of comes with a lot of issues, right? There's some, there's issues with every audience you connect with, but you need to be mindful of how you are attracting people, right? It's extremely important to think about that because if you connect with someone based off of something material or some, quote unquote, almost subliminal promise that you make them, and if they don't get that immediate fix, right, that can turn out to be a very bad relationship. Almost, and I like to use real life examples where a guy has this super duper exotic car that he's driving, right? But it's a lease, right? Or it's a rental. And he meets a woman based upon that. So naturally, she's attracted to probably that. Once she finds out that it's not really his, then, how do you think the relationship turns out, right? And this is how a lot of people are marketing today. So just keep that in mind in your methods of building relationships. Now, here's the other thing. Another way to build your relationships is to think about it like this. You are the brand. Like literally you have to see yourself as a brand because you can't talk to everyone individually. So it's one to many. And your brand is going to be what you do. I'm not saying that you don't need to have colors and things that people recognize, but is that really important? Like, are you really going to connect with somebody based upon them having pretty colors or certain colors? Or are you going to connect with them based upon what they actually do? More than likely, you're going to connect with them based upon what they actually do. And I'm not talking about a short period of time. Remember that concept, the infinite game versus the long-term game. People think that they have to win when are you really winning, right? If you take advantage of somebody or if you get over somebody or if you're able to make a lot of sales and not give an actual quality product, right? Think about the long term because clients can buy once, twice, 3 times. You think about the lifetime value of some of your clients, they could be with you for 3, 4, 5 years. We've made millions with one client. We've made hundreds of thousands with one client, right? So you have to think about that, right? And maybe you have a small product and maybe it's only, $25, $30 or so. But what if they buy that product again, 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 and again, and again, right? So remember that your brand is what you do. And also, this is a relationship that people will have with you. Because remember, we're going one to many, hopefully, or even if you have a brick and mortar store, you still want to build relationships, right, with people. But your brand is what you do. And your brand is also the relationship people will have. Maybe you have a cleaners. And if you do quality services, people will remember you by that. They're not going to only remember you because your sign was yellow or your sign was blue, or if you're a barbershop, because you have a little barbershop image, I forget what it is, red, white, and blue. Like this barber knows how to cut hair, right? This salon, she does good work or he does good work, or this doctor does this, or this dentist does that, or this grocery store has the best quality products and foods or whatever, or the cultural foods that benefit me. So think about that. And also you want to make sure that you provide the highest quality products and services that you can. I don't care if you're writing a book, anything that you sell, that you exchange currency for, make sure it's high quality, right? Don't be scared to go ahead and put something out, but always be mindful of continually improving that because that is your relationship. Remember, they get your service and product is an extension of you. So that's a part of their relationship. Let me make sure nobody's asking questions here. Are there any online tools that can help us build virtual audience? Well, this one is one right here. Just Zoom. I mean, you can literally just hop on a Zoom. But there's a ton of software programs like Zoom that you can use, right? Tons of them. And so the other thing I want to talk about is this. Here are some of the tools that we can use. And that is, how do you want to connect with people online? How do you want to build your virtual relationships online, right? And also, we're going to start off with, what is your online image? So, do you have a presence on Instagram? Do you have a presence on Facebook? Do you have a presence on YouTube? Do you have one on LinkedIn? Do you have one on TikTok? Like, where are you? Where's your target audience? Do you have to be on all of them at the same time? Right? So you want to think about that, right? What do you have? And let me see here who has an online presence, right? Who here has an Instagram account, right? That's like one of the more popular ones. Instagram. Does anyone have Facebook? Does anyone have YouTube? Does anyone? It would be nice to know who I'm talking to and who has what, right? This is a quiet audience, right? Yeah, who has a social media account, basically? Who here has a social media account? I need to know that. Remember, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, you can reach millions of people with some of these software tools. Someone asked me, what was the question that I think Jay asked me? He says, are there any online tools? These are the tools right here. Now, you don't have to be on all of them at the same exact time, but you can, I don't want to go too far because I'm not, based upon the feedback, I don't know if many of us are online. So I don't want to go too far in the rabbit hole, right? But those are some of the tools that you use. And I'll just give you a little bit of information about each one. So Instagram is more of like a younger crowd, for sure. It's really picture oriented. It's, a lot of videos, stories on Instagram. Stories are like the soap operas you see, right? So to speak. Yeah, kind of like that, right? It's almost like, like when you see like the news and they have these different things that are happening throughout the day, your stories are about what happens throughout your day. They only last 15 seconds long on each one, right? Well, each clip, rather, is 15 seconds, and the story lasts for 24 hours. So that means let's say you post 3 stories, that's 15, 30, 45-second stories. That's 45 seconds, right? You can post that and then go do whatever you have to do, and people will see that all day long for the next 24 hours, right? Now you can set up and then the feed or the wall, which is like your store. When people are walking by your store, they see your store, your presentation. That's what your wall looks like on Instagram. And so when people come to your page, they can see your wall. Maybe you have a picture of whatever it is that you do one day, and a picture of your family the next day, just different things. And you can also put comments on each, right? There's all kinds of other things you could do with Instagram, but again, I don't know who I'm talking to, so I don't want to go too deep. Oh, okay. Okay, no problem. Okay, got it. So that's Instagram, and you can do a lot. Instagram has, on the IG feed, you can post something up to 60 seconds. Remember, like I said, the stories, each clip is 15, but then they have IGTV. Like, no one watches TV anymore, like, period. Everything is online, at least for me. And I'm not in my 20s, I'm not in my 30s, I'm past that, right? So everything I do is online. I'm on my phone, right? Consistently. There's something going on online right now. As soon as I get off this, I'm going to jump on it because it's an actual live presentation that's on Instagram. And it's like a live, 2 guys who are discussing some issues, and I want to see it. And there'll be thousands and thousands and thousands of people there watching as well. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is you can go to Facebook, where a lot of people run ads. You can run ads on Instagram natively, but you can also run ads on Facebook. So Facebook is a little bit more mature crowd, but it is one of the best platforms for running ads. You can post quotes on Facebook. You can post them on Instagram as well. And with Facebook, you have a business account, which allows you to run ads. And then you can also have a personal account where you can't run ads on there. You can do stories too, but they're not as popular. They don't work as well. And they don't have as many features. And you can post long stories on Facebook as well. So, and then also you have Facebook groups where you can build your community. This is another really, really great tool in building your community is by having Facebook groups. Okay, so right now, let me speed it up here, right? But here's the thing. You don't want to be on social media all day. There's definitely ways around that. And just really quick, there's some touch points, right? In building relationships. You want to make sure that you're on point before, during, and after the sale. Before, during, and after the sale. If you want to keep and maintain a relationship, whether it be in person or online, you want to follow up and be there definitely after the sale, because you want your clients to have an awesome experience. So here's what not to do really quick. What not to do is don't go into your relationships just to make a quick buck. Don't chase the money, right? Chase the experience. Give your client the best experience, right? You make sure you don't want to have little to no customer service. You do not want to do that. You don't want to ignore your clients. You don't want to ignore their complaints or their praises, right? And I could go into detail, but we don't have time here, of some of the salespeople that I work with online and offline. The ones who are only about their, about getting the buck, they always lose clients. But the ones who nurture them, they always keep them, right? So you don't want to treat, and this is one thing that our company started to do, our back office people, they started to treat clients like a number. And that's when you have the problem, is when they treat clients like a number. So I'm going to give you a site. I don't know if I can do that or not. And this is nothing to sell you whatsoever. Can I do that and give them a site, right? You can go, and this is just free. It's basically a weekly video series where it's called buildgrowandscale.com. Buildgrowandscale.com. You can go there. You can sign up for free weekly videos, or you can go to Instagram and catch me there. I got a long name, but you see it here, Khaazra Maaranu. And type the word. If you go to my Instagram, in the messages, and this is another way to build relationships virtually, an excellent way to build relationships. Go to my DMs and type the word confidence, and you will see how relationships are built without me even being there. So thank you for having me here.
Well, sir, thank you so much for being a part of our program today. We thank you, and we appreciate your information that you've given to us. It's a lot to take in. Thank you so much for being here.